This is what I get for going against democracy. This video is supported in part by Skillshare. Today I'm going to be making something out of this book, which has the very catchy title, Collection of Fresh Summer Dresses, Easiest to Make with Some Fashion Tips. I think it'll work, especially as, yeah, they're real baggy styles.
But like, look at your arm.
Oh! This is not natural! What do you think? Should I make more out of this book? If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, let me know. I want to make the stuff that you want to watch. So what I'm hearing is, it was a really bad idea and I shouldn't bother making any more from this book. So thanks for watching and I'll see you all next time. Kidding, obviously. I am so glad you all wanted to see more out of this book because I had so much fun making that last pattern and video out of this. And I'm finally finished with my uni midterms and my head doesn't feel like it's exploding every single moment of the day anymore. I am so ready to make another one. This time I want to tackle the now infamous I feel public gaze on my back wrap dress. The pattern, of course, has some great little tips on it. We have I feel public gaze on my back, but also the blue sky is too much for my naked eyes. And idea is your weapon. There's two pieces to the pattern which I need to translate onto some pattern paper. So let's get right into it. I copied the pattern from the book down onto pieces of taped together butcher's paper, which I did first in pencil because you have to draw a lot of straight lines to square everything up and then draw curves between them. And then I went around the lines making up the final pattern in permanent marker so you can see it and cut it out. Okay, it took a few hours and a few rests, but I did it. We've got the front piece, the back piece, and pocket. In the last one, some people were like, Annika, you know you can just copy the pattern straight down onto the fabric and then you can skip this whole step. But I want to be able to have a pattern. Firstly, I don't think I would take very accurate measurements on the fabric. Like, this gets pretty tricky. So I feel like doing it down in pencil, on paper, and then having this piece is a lot easier for that. And secondly, now I have the pattern. If I really like how it turns out, I can make many in different fabrics. And now I have to choose some fabric. The reason I'm so hunched over is because this little fabric room that I have, I can't actually stand up in it. It's not very big, but it's pretty awesome that I have a fabric room at all. Alright, fabrics. It's coming up for summer for us here in the southern hemisphere. So I do want something light and breezy. The pattern says that I need 2.8 meters of fabric, and a lot of my fabric bits are smaller than that, so that is going to limit me a little. And look, I know we did gingham on the last one, but I love gingham and this is such a nice print. Plus I've got 3 meters of the stuff. I feel like this could look really nice as well, but I am worried it would look a little bit like a school pinafore in this particular plaid. A really interesting one to do it in would be this eyelet fabric, but it's quite sheer and this pattern doesn't include a lining and I can't be bothered adding one. Ugh, what I wish I could do it in is this, but I don't have enough of the dang stuff. I'm gonna save that for a blouse one day. This is a tough decision, folks. Tricky choices. Oh, and by the way, if you didn't see it on my Facebook or Instagram pages, this here is the fabric for my wedding dress. I got it for $4 a meter from a place called Reverse Garbage. I know, $4 a meter. It's gonna be like the cheapest wedding dress of all time. If you wanna see the pattern that I'm gonna be using, I'll put a link to the Instagram post. I'm also gonna try and film it too, so. I can't decide. Alright, it's come down to these two. They're the top contenders. This one's like a satin or a rayon. Basically, it's not gonna get creases, which would be nice because I hate ironing things. But I just love gingham. Is this even technically gingham? Maybe it's plaid, I don't know. Maybe I'll just sleep on it. Alright, I'm posting this on Instagram so that people can decide for me. Because what's the point of even being a hashtag influencer if I can't defer all decision making to a collective to make all my hard choices for me? Also, I figure if one of them wins and I'm not happy about it, that'll show me which one I really wanted it to be. So I'm not gonna honor this vote, but hopefully it'll help me figure out which fabric I actually want to use. Anyway, it's late. I'm gonna sleep on this, see what the poll says tomorrow. It's like basically a tie. You know what? I think I wanted floral to win. Look, I know like a lot of my audience is from the US and I know you're used to election results where someone who doesn't win the majority wins the vote. I don't want to shake things up here. I think floral can win on 46%. Plus, I don't even wear orange all that much anyway. I usually don't, I promise. These last 2 days have been unusual. All right. Stuff it. I'm going with the floral.
And then I used the patterns I made to cut the fabric out. I put the front piece on the fabric with the straight edge matching up with the fold of the fabric, put a bunch of heavy items on top. Will Annika ever get pattern weights? I don't think she will. She'll just forever complain about not having them. And then I cut around the edge of the pattern with my rotary cutter.
Now give me the beat.
Then I cut out the pockets from the scrappy bits of fabric. And then the back pattern piece. Oh, well, I started having problems there.
This is my penance for my hubris of defying the will of the people. I need to cut out 2 of these, and I just can't fit it onto this fabric. Gosh darn it. Okay, it's totally fine. I'll be able to get 1 full piece, and then here, fabric ends there, so we've got a little bit extra that I'm just gonna have to grab another bit of fabric for and sew it on. It's gonna be a bit patchwork, but it's fine. I stick with and support my decision to use this fabric.
So I lay the back pattern piece down on top of a folded bit of fabric, and from this I'm able to cut out 1 completely intact back piece, and then the second back piece is missing part of the skirt, which I just added by sewing on another piece of fabric here. Then laying the pattern back down and cutting out the remaining part of the skirt.
Alrighty, we've got a front piece. We've got 2 back pieces that are the same size and 2 pockets. Now I've just got to figure out how the heck it all goes together, because this is the sewing instructions. To finish the raw edge with bias cloth. How we get from here to here though, it does not explain. Nor did it tell me to cut out a belt or belt loops, so let's try and figure it out. Hi. I messed up. So I'm sure some of you have been screaming this at your screen for the last few minutes, but I was just editing the footage I have so far, and I realized I haven't added a seam allowance at any point. You're supposed to add your own seam allowance to this pattern, either to the pattern itself or while you're cutting out the fabric, and I forgot at both points. And as you already know from the last episode, I'm already on the larger end of the one size fits most sizing from this book, so I needed that extra seam allowance. I've already cut out my fabric. Yeah, this is what I get for going against democracy. Anyway, I'm hoping that if I use a really small seam allowance while sewing it up, it will still fit because it's a wrap dress. So I guess technically it's got a little bit of extra fabric in there to wrap it around yourself. Hopefully I won't end up with like a hospital gown type garment where it barely just meets up at the back. I'm gonna continue anyway. Wish me luck. The first step of sewing it together is placing this front piece down right sides up, placing the 2 back pieces on right sides down, and then sewing them together at the shoulder seams. Wow, okay, I thought this was gonna be really difficult fabric to sew because it's quite slippery, but my trusty Benina is handling it like a champ. So at least one thing is going right for this project. All right, now I can kind of try it on, and I am definitely going to have to make these armholes bigger if I want any chance of this fitting. But apart from that, it actually looks like it might, hopefully, probably, fingers crossed, fit me.
To make the armholes that little bit bigger, I am going to cut them a little bit more open while it's laid out flat like this. I measured around the armholes so that I was cutting the same amount off each side so it wouldn't join up wonky, and then I used the tiny little bits I cut off the armholes on one side as a template for the second armhole so that they're matching.
Every time I see this, I laugh. Now, it appears that we need to add a belt to the back pieces. I'm a little confused as to how, but I think that the belt gets attached on both sides at this point. And then on one of the back pieces, there's a little slit so the belt can come through it. We've not been told exactly how long to make the belt, but from the information here we have about the string inlet, I can only assume that it's 3 centimeters wide, so at least we know that. I'm just gonna make 2 rectangles that are way longer than I need them to be, just in case, because I can always chop them shorter if need be.
So this one is 35 inches long, and this one here is almost 40 inches. I think from roughly measuring around my waist with the measuring tape and then imagining a tie, that each of these belt pieces only needs to be about 30 inches long, but I might as well make them longer than they need to be just in case. Also, they are both 2 3/4 inches, which is 7 centimeters tall. Now I'm going to make little tubes. Actually, oh, I should do interfacing if this is a belt. So flipping them so the wrong side is facing up, I'm going to now fuse strips of interfacing onto both of them. Next, I laid both of these long rectangles so they were right sides up, and then I folded them lengthways down their middles, holding the edges together with clips. And then I sewed each one like this, down the long open edge of the fabric with a 1 centimeter aka 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Then I popped a safety pin into one open end of the long tube and used it to turn it inside out, aka right way around. Next, I ironed both tubes flat and top stitched down the side closest to the seam, and I also closed up one of the ends on both belt pieces while I was there. And now I've realized I shouldn't have sewn it together at the shoulders because I've got to add the pockets and add the belt and stuff. Look, I'm not doing a great job at planning with this one. Bad planning aside, I ventured forward. I lay the 2 different belt pieces down on the back of the dress where the pattern said I should put them, which is at this point here. I'm going to stitch the belt on here. Nope, that's way too high up for my natural waist. This is like a boob belt. Luckily I only pinned it on, so I'm gonna move the belt down slightly. Now I'm sewing on for real this time. Maybe it was a good idea that I sewed the shoulders after all, so I can try it on and figure these things out. See? I'm not bad at planning. Turns out I was a genius all along. So I sewed the belt in place onto the dress. Now, I'm gonna leave this little slit that I'm supposed to put in the dress to allow the belt to come through it. I'm gonna leave that till last. So the next thing I need to do is add the pockets and add the belt loops, which I've just noted here I need to move 5 centimeters down because that's the amount I moved the belt down by. To do that, I'm just laying the front pattern back down on the front piece, marking out where both the belt loop and the pocket should go, then just shifting them down 5 centimeters as I do that, and repeating it on both sides. To prepare the pockets, I folded each edge of the pockets over twice towards the wrong side of the fabric, and then I used fabric clips to hold this in place, which has made the pocket kind of absurdly small. Lucky I have little hands. They'll still fit. I think I was supposed to add seam allowance to the pocket pattern as well, which it didn't tell me to do. I blame the pattern. Stupid pattern. Anyway, as much as these pattern instructions are useless, I soldiered on and sewed down all 4 edges of each of my tiny pockets. And now I have 2 honestly pretty wonky pockets that are not exactly the same size. It's hard to work with this slippery fabric, and I didn't cut them out exactly accurately to start with. Oh well, because the fabric's patterned like this, you probably won't be able to tell when it's finished. See what I mean? I've attached the pockets with pins to the dress, but you can barely even tell that they're there. Anyway, now I'm gonna sew them on like this. Oh boy, I'm trying to sew one slippery thing onto another slippery thing here, and honestly I'm gonna be pretty surprised if the pockets are sewn on at all evenly. Now that the pockets have been sewn on, I'm using more of the scraps to cut out 2 small rectangles, each 4 by 3 centimeters. That's 1.5 by 1.25 inches, and these will become the belt loops. To make these into belt loops, first I sewed them in half lengthways, right sides together, like this. Then I used a pencil to turn this little tube right ways around. I ironed both of them flat, then attached them onto the front of the dress above the pocket by sewing the top edge first, and then flipping it up so that the part I just sewed is actually the bottom end of the belt loop. And then I hand sewed the top part of the belt loop to the dress. And now I've got nice belt loops for my belt to go through. Now I can finally sew the side seams. I laid the dress so that the front piece is facing right sides up, then laid the back pieces down on top of it, side seams matching, so that they're right sides together. I clipped the sides together with sewing clips, and then I sewed down each side like this. It actually fits. It's hard for me to show you while I'm holding the camera and trying to hold my dress, but plenty to wrap around me. Whew, thank goodness. I'm really excited. So the best place for the slit for the belt to go is actually on the front piece, just next to the belt loop. It's gonna go here, which is different to the pattern, which said to put it on the back piece. So I'm glad I waited until now to put this slit in. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put it in level with the belt loop, and I'm actually gonna do like a buttonhole across this. So like I'm basically making a buttonhole. That's the same width as the belt, so about 3 centimeters tall. Okay, I don't know if you can see it, but see how there's like, you can see the light of my sewing machine around the edges of the stitches there. So this fabric, I guess, is quite thin and delicate, and it's like pulled the weave of the fabric like a little bit loose around the stitches. I'm worried that's not gonna hold up so well, so I'm gonna slap a bit of interfacing just on the back of it, and then hopefully that will hold it together and keep my dress from falling apart into tatters after the first wear. Oh wow, this actually fits.
extremely well. If I had added a seam allowance, this thing would have been too big. I should go back now and edit it to make it look like that was my plan the whole time. Just a happy sewing accident. Oh, it looks so good. All we gotta do now is finish the raw edges of the thing.
For the seams inside the dress, that meant first pressing the seams with my iron towards the back of the dress, and then I went over them with an overlocking stitch on my sewing machine just to enclose those raw edges and stop them fraying.
Now I have to bias bind the edges of the thing. I thought about just hemming it, but because the fabric's slippery, that would probably be even more difficult. So I laid it out flat to show you just how much I have to bias bind. All of this, and then the little armholes here, and then all of this, and all of this, and all of this. Honestly, I'll probably do the entire hem with bias binding as well. But it's the last step, and once I've done that, it'll be finished. So time for a bias binding time lapse. Oh my god. Oh, the bobbin ran out for all of that. That dang traitor. Take 2.
Welcome to several hours of my life condensed into 1 minute 25. There's something really quite existential about it, and it makes me feel a little bit freaked out if I'm honest. But you probably wouldn't want to watch a whole 2-hour bit of me bias binding the edges of this new fit. So I guess a time lapse is the only way to do it. It's a time lapse, yeah!
I am finished, and I'm so excited to show it to you. So let's put it on and do some final fashion shots.
It's midsummer now, and the blue sky is too much for my naked eyes. I feel public gaze on my back. Idea is your weapon.
Gosh darn it, this turned out nicely. So the fabric worked in the end, and so did me completely forgetting to add a seam allowance to the pattern, because if I had, this would have ended up too big for me. Serendipity. Now let's see what our favorite superhero is up to, huh?
Now I must be off. I have to defeat the dastardly Redavnia from completing her evil plans.
Thanks, Super Sewist.
Redavnia, we meet at last. Ha! Super Sewist. Awfully good of you to show up, but you're too late. Everything is already in motion. Soon everyone in the world will have their clothing burst apart at the seams, and then, because no one knows how to sew anything for themselves anymore, everyone will turn to fast fashion to buy entire new wardrobes. The world will be in ruins. Ha 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 ha. Good plan, except you forgot one thing. No, I didn't. What? People like to learn, and you forgot about the online learning community. Skillshare. Excuse me, what? They've got thousands of online classes that cover creative and entrepreneurial skills, including fashion design and sewing. Whatever. Why would anybody take those classes when fast fashion is so cheap? Because, Redavnia, Skillshare is cheap too. And while your cheap clothing might last for 1 or 2 wears, knowledge lasts a lifetime. And the people of the world can get Skillshare for only $10 a month, which gives them unlimited access to all the knowledge on the website. I find that hard to believe. Who wants to learn when you can go shopping? Believe it, Redavnia. People want to learn. And Skillshare not only has fashion design and sewing classes, but also photography, illustration, animation, graphic design, app design, video production, and so much more, which the people of the world can learn from inside their own homes. A great course for those looking for a new skill is this one by Ryan Booth, called DIY Cinematography, how to make your video look more like a movie. Wink. Ugh, whatever. You know, for a so-called goody-two-shoes superhero, you sure spend a lot of time doing advertisements for Skillshare. Who do you think pays me for going around and saving the world? For ruining your evil plans, Redavnia? The government? Not likely. This is my side hustle, while I distract you for long enough so I can defuse your clothing bomb. What? How did you get a hold of that? Pay attention, Redavnia. You know what? The evil thing's getting a bit old. I think you need a new hobby. why don't you check out Skillshare? Hey, as a show of good sportsmanship, I'll even give you 2 months for free if you click the link in the description box below. Ugh, I hate you, super sewist. I love you too, Redavnia. Guess I'll see you next time I need to ruin your evil plan. Ugh. Looks like we saved the day again. Right, super dog? Huh. So that's how the super sewist beat Redavnia. Thank you for watching, everyone. It took a long time to put this video together and I'm so happy with how it's turned out. By the way, if you want this pattern for yourself, I've scanned it and I've thrown it up on my website, so I'll put a link for that in the description box. Oh, and I mean, it kind of looks like this might be turning into a series. While it takes a long time, I do really enjoy making the patterns from this book and taking you all along for the ride. But if it does become a series, I need some catchy / wonderful names for the series. If you can think of any, let me know. Huge shout out to all of my wonderful Patreons and the sponsor Skillshare, because my channel and these videos literally could not exist without you. So if you enjoy them, consider supporting me on Patreon. And that's it. Thank you all for being wonderful and I will see you all in my next video. Bye for now.
You struggle so much with winking.
I can't
Why did
wink.
you put a wink into the script?
I don't know. Well, look, I was gonna do an eyebrow raise, but you can't see my eyebrows.
Why didn't you do a big wink and say like, wink? Actually say wink.
Okay, wink. All right, I'll do that.
Because otherwise people aren't going to be able to figure out that's what you're doing. You just...